Okay, this is a brief, how should I say, analysis or assessment of Chris Kyle, American Sniper. And I'm not going to focus on Clint Eastwood's movie, although that's really the key issue here. Though that's the reason why I'm not going to focus on that, because that's pretty cut and dry. What is not cut and dry is assessment of Chris Kyle. And in the end, you could say it's based upon my opinion, all right, which is true. But what I want to do is present you a factual basis for that, all right? I know that maybe a lot is being said, a lot of attacks are being made about this, right? But it's largely based upon what people are saying, right? So yeah, I want to cover that. So here's kind of the background behind this whole thing. About a week ago, I had an offhand conversation, just random conversation, when I was standing next to the DVDs, and I picked up, I saw a movie called Sully there, and I started a random conversation with a fellow who was working at the library about the lack of truthfulness in the movie Sully, right, and how that related to American Sniper, both of which were Clint Eastwood movies, all right, and of course, everything that I say and do is recorded and frantically scrutinized for some means of attacking. And shortly thereafter, that conversation, about an hour or so later, I got strong indications that an attack was being conducted. My conversation, there was a big wave of social reality, which was being pushed. And that in itself is a fundamental method of manipulation in and of itself. The wave of social reinforcement being infinitely more powerful than facts, which no one knows or no one remembers, right? They know what's being passed and not any really the facts and details behind it. So it wasn't being attacked, and the attack was this, all right? I mentioned the lack of truthfulness in Eastwood's movies, but the attack, as I gathered, was not based upon that. It was, I wasn't being attacked on what I said, but what the liar said I said. I gathered that they were attacking me for attacking Chris Kyle, which I didn't. Which I didn't do at all. I only focused on Eastwood's lying movies, American Sniper and Sully. This is the classic method of manipulating an attack, putting words in your target's mouth, and attacking him for not what he said, but for what you say he said, right? And the reason why it works is because no one goes back and checks what actually was said. They just go with what's being said. All right, now, but the attack work as they always do, because no one remembers what really was said, and they only remember what was being currently passed around and waved in front of their face in social reality, which dominates perceptions as always. So in short, the attack was a lie, and it worked. And now there are two entirely distinct and separate issues here. The first issue is the lies in Clint Eastwood's movies, right? Clint Eastwood's movies those two movies are loaded with lies and create an extraordinarily distorted picture of the Iraq invasion war, which is then fed to the American public as pure propaganda, right? Those movies portrayed the war as noble, justified, as defense of our country, when it had nothing to do with this sort. We'll get to eventually the actual factual basis behind that. Now, that is not opinion. Clint Eastwood's lies are not opinion; they're absolute fact, and they can be easily gauged, easily determined by comparing his story of Chris Kyle to what Chris Kyle actually said in his book, and you'll see there's vast differences. All right, so all you have to do is compare Eastwood's movie with what Kyle said actually happened. All right, Eastwood's movie serves to paint the Iraq War as justified, noble, and a fight against evil, a fight to protect the U.S., and justified due to the 9/11 attacks. People say, well, I'm not that stupid, I never fall for that. Oh, but so many people actually do fall for it. They walk out of the movie theater thinking, with this feel good, chest beating, USA shouting, yeah. So many people are desperate to believe, many people are desperate to believe that sort of thing. The second issue is a comment on Kyle's character, which you can reliably gauge. You can gather from all that he says, his repeated lies, and he says them over and over and over in different ways, so he cannot deny it, right? Now, first of all, I never mentioned Kyle when I was attacked for attacking him, which is a flat-out lie. Because of this, I should totally ignore the whole Kyle issue, but I really do despise the person based upon, one, his many outrageous lies, which are all for the purpose of self-promotion. We'll go through his lies one by one, right? His big, flagrant lies. And then, second, the many things he says in his book, which clearly points to his simple, distorted, bigoted, and hateful views of Muslims, of the people of Iraq, which sways his opinion and his assessment of things. It also clearly points out his character and his motives. Now, you can say that unlike Eastwood's distortions, which can all be proven, this is more opinion. And I have to say it is, right? However, Kyle says these things over and over in multiple ways, different ways, which gives a reliable indication of his attitudes, his beliefs, his character, and his motives. Now, I know that a lot of the average person who wants to, look for a hero and be all, feel good with their patriotism, right, will say, "Oh, you're full of crap. You don't know what you're talking about." But the thing about it is, if you would ask them, to state any of the facts from the book, even if they read the book, and most of them probably haven't read the book, right? But even if they read the book, you ask them, they come up with nothing, right? They don't record things. They don't write things down, right? They may skim through the book and, get an overall impression, but, that's about it. They're not going to walk away with any specific hard facts. But do they remember a single thing that he said? No, hell no. They'll claim they do, but if you ask them, right, and I've done this so many times, right, they come up with nothing, zero. Do they remember his fantastic self-promoting lies? Hell no. So we'll go over these again, but I know that they're not going to be remembered. Even after I go over them again, I know people are not going to walk away with it. They'll just revert to what's being said, right? That will dominate their perceptions. But you have to make an effort. So I know they won't remember because it won't be practiced with effort, right? Which is necessary to grow memories. A lot of people think that their memories are their minds are like a computer, that they easily recall, remember things, right? We're not made of silicon chips, right? We're not, we're not digital processors. We have to grow actual neural connections called dendrites, right? They're filaments of neurons that grow out and connect to others in synaptic connections. So you have to grow these dendrites to remember things, and then you have to form synaptic connections to retain a memory. Now, this is based on basic human physiology, but people won't believe that. Even though I've proven it in experiments nearly 1,000 times, I've proven, right, that if I give a historical presentation of about 200 to 300 facts, all clearly well explained, all well organized, all well sequenced, right, fully explained, right. If I present it one-on-one, typically it's 0 to 7 items remembered, and those items sketchy, vague, right. Usually it's typically on average about 3 items remembered. If I present it to a group like a class, it's between 0 and 1 items remembered, right. One person out of the whole class may remember one thing, right, and that's the nature of our memories. We're not computers. We're not as good as we think. So what is perceptions based upon? Nothing, right? People have no basis when there's complex factual information, right? Unless they're an expert on it, they have no basis, but they'll have a strong opinion. Now, so let's see here. I know people are itching to attack, right? Like an initial bad. It's like a screaming case of hemorrhoids. But how will they attack? First, they'll wait. A typical attack works like this. They'll wait until the facts are forgotten. Now, facts are forgotten pretty much immediately, the instant after I present them. People won't retain the facts, so they're forgotten. However, the overall impression remains. But now, given the fact that all facts are forgotten, that overall impression is now no longer anchored in anything real, right? It's vague and fuzzy, and it's highly subject to change. It's highly subjected to alteration, to flipping 180. And do they do that right away? No. If they do it right away, and that overall impression is still firm and solid, right? People will immediately say, "You're just trying to lie and deny," and it'll backfire. It always does. When you try to launch an attack right away, it flaps back in their face. Even though the person who heard all these facts remembered none of the facts, right? They still remember the overall impression. So what they do is, the typical method would be to wait 4 days, but I've seen it whittled down to just 1 day now. Within 1 day, right? The overall impression is so vague and subject to change that you can launch an attack and it'll flip it. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, I've proven this. I've proven this in an experiment now upwards around 900 times. You get the same results every time. Second, the liars will wait for their overall impression has faded, which takes about a day. So no one remembers any facts from Cal's book, his direct quotes that I provided. Right? Then, once all the facts are forgotten, they'll shift all focus upon, for example, the one vulnerable thing, totally blinding out of view the 99.9% of the facts. Right? And they'll shift to focus on one thing. Now, that one thing could be. Oftentimes it's attack upon something that I did not say, but they're saying I said. And that's easy to attack. It's easy to show that's false, right? So in this case, the attack was I critiqued Clint Eastwood's movie, and I didn't say anything about Chris Kyle at all and his lying story, or I just focused on Eastwood's lying story or Kyle, right? Which served as great propaganda fuel. Which was highly effective in manipulating the public to see the Iraq invasion war as noble, justified, moral, and righteous. So what they did is the liars shifted the focus, saying I attacked Kyle, which I didn't, right? That was the initial attack. After I said it, and that was a lie. The liars may shift focus onto a single error that I made. For example, I did make one error on Kyle's wife, her statement on the charity gift tax from profits, right? But I fixed that. We'll cover that. And it's even worse, the lie that they presented about that after I studied tax law there. Let's see. The liars will put in my mouth and then attack something I did not say. In fact, they attacked something I clearly said I cannot prove. For example, I said that I cannot prove that a single one of Chris Cowell's target assessments was biased and distorted and erroneous and not justified. I cannot prove that. I cannot prove that unless I had clear video evidence of all that went on, right? So pretty much you got to take his word for it. All right, but what I did say is, I don't trust the guy. Of all he said, of his many flagrant, far-fetched, self-promoting lies, right? Of all his hatefulness and how he said he loved killing, he had fun killing, he made a game of killing. He said that in his book. Then I question, I seriously question him. One, I don't like the guy. As a Christian, I cannot stand the guy. So they'll say that I said that, his attacks, his shots were unjustified. I never said that. You cannot prove that. I cannot prove that, right? I just said I question him, and we'll see if my questioning is valid. So the liar scum will opportunistically twist and finagle an attack, saying he said that all of Kyle's kills were unjustified. Well, I never said that. I know that they attacked that. First, I didn't say that at all. I said, I fully admit that you cannot prove a single wrong kill unless there were video evidence because I don't trust witness testimony, because people perceive things distorted, they remember things distorted, and they lie. So there's three things: distorted perceptions, distorted memory, and flat out lies. Second, so I want to see actual video. Second, I did not say that I did say I highly suspect that there may have been some wrongful targeting based upon all that Cal said about his motives and mindset, right? You'll see that come out. But what others said of him, okay, like his buddy saying that to Cal, anyone is a legitimate target in the rules of engagement, and by all his flagrant lies, he built up himself, right? Third, the vast majority of people, nearly 100%, could not state a single fact here presented, right? They're just going by what people are saying, in social reality. They don't remember any facts. They don't study this, right? The vast majority have never read Cal's book. And even those who read his book, it's doubtful they remember a single fact from there. They'll say they do, and they'll even believe it themselves, but if you ask them, right, they would come up to zero or next to zero. Maybe they'd come up with one thing to remember, which is vague and sketchy, and maybe not even right at all. Fourth, what do they have in mind? What they have in mind is the mass momentum of social reality, which is a lie, but it dominates because everyone's saying it. It always dominates. Social reinforcement is powerful. For example, they'll be attacking. He's saying all Kyle's lies were not justified. I'm not saying that. All right, so let's see here. This is what I'm saying. All right, I'm only saying that from all he has said and the flagrant lies he has made, and from what other people said of him, right? I don't trust him for a second. I don't like him. I certainly don't like this guy. And in fact, I detest him. I think a hero, this guy's more villainous. Fifth, and most important of all, when I had the conversation about Eastwood's lying movie, I didn't discuss Kyle at all, right? Though the lying attacks are attacking me for going after Kyle, right? Now, I will address Kyle now. I shouldn't entertain this, but I'll address Kyle. Now, that's how easily people are shifted onto a lying attack, right? They don't remember what was said, right? If everyone's saying that, he's attacking Kyle, then that's what they'll believe. All right, my sole focus intent was to show how Eastwood's movie was pure, blatant lying propaganda, and I proved it by comparing what was in his movie with Kyle's book himself. So the movie is about Kyle, right? Is that what he said happened? No. Throughout the whole movie, time and time again, what Eastwood is portraying never happened. And what's even worse is how he paints the Iraq invasion war as noble and justified, a fight against terrorists. In response to 9/11, all of this is lies. First of all, the movie was lying and distorting, and was effective in getting simple-minded Americans to see Iraq invasion war as moral and justified. Do people know a single fact on how the Bush administration manipulated the American public and Congress into the invasion of the war? I cover this in my sociology class, right? I go through chronologically the things that were done and said, and I'll cover that again in a desktop video shortly. Do people know all the lucrative economic benefits from the war, right? Do they understand the economics of war? Hell no. Right? It's not just oil. There's a whole slew of benefits, from balance of trade to increased industrial activity, right? Military production to private military security contracts, big lucrative contracts, to LOGCAP, logistics, civilian augmentation program contracts, to reconstruction contracts, to, oil's involved, even though we do not have to gain a bit of direct control of Iraqi oil. Through this war, through the financial requirements of war, we gain indirect control of oil price. We gain indirect control of oil production out of Iraq, which influences world oil prices. Do people know the long history of the conflict that we've created in the Middle East? Hell no. Do they know our long history, our involvement in the Middle East? Right? Do they know the history of oil production? No. right? Do they know the history of oil, not just production in the U.S., domestic production, but domestic demand, right? And how that affected the shift of control of price. Who became the monitor of spare production, right? It shifted away from the U.S. to OPEC in 1971. Now, they don't understand this stuff, right? Which means we lost direct control of price. Do people know the long history? Okay. Do people know the history of oil production and how it impacts upon foreign policy, including all the conflict we created in the Middle East? Hell no, right? They have none of this in their mind, right? They're seeing, invasion of Iraq. Do they know even to that one, right? Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11. No, 70% of the people believe that Iraq was behind 9/11, right? And that's why we invaded Iraq. Right? Totally false. U.S. Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11, right? Iraq was not connected with Al-Qaeda. In fact, the 2006 Senate Intelligence Report said they're hunting these guys down. All the religious fanatics they're hunting down because they wanted their number one goal, like Richard Clark said, the top anti-terror czar of the country said that their number one goal in all their writings, he said, was to establish their caliphate, their religious state, right? And to do so, they would have to overthrow a local Middle East country like Iraq, like Syria, all right? That was their goal, number one goal. So they're a threat to Iraq, and Iraq was hunting them down. All right, so then the next thing is weapons of mass destruction. Oh, yeah, he's going to have weapons of mass destruction. Well, there's no weapons of mass destruction. Now, people say, well, the Bush administration was fed, faulty information. No, they manufactured faulty information. When they were given information that there was no weapons of mass destruction, they rejected that, and they established their own intelligence unit in the basement of the Pentagon. And who did they rely upon? They relied primarily upon the testimony of one person, a guy named El-Chalabi, right? Who was what? He was the leader of the Iraqi National Congress, which is the political party in exile, opposition political party in exile in Iraq, all right? And he wanted to be president of Iraq, and he was a banker and an oil man, and he's the one who fed them information about mobile biological labs and crap like that. And also, in addition to that, he is known by intelligence agencies as a known fabricator. That's what in fact, that's exactly what the German intelligence agency coined him as, a known fabricator, right? So they relied upon that guy's information, right? They rejected any information that there wasn't weapons of mass destruction. They manufactured lies about yellow cake out of Africa, right? They sent the guy to check it out. He said, Valerie Plane's husband, I forget his name, right? They sent him to check it out. He checks it out, and he says that, no, they're not producing yellow cake down there. Lies about aluminum tubes, on and on. Anyways, I'm not going to get into the specific method of lying, but I'll get to that in another lesson shortly. So I'll teach a study of Cal and Eastwood again. But what will people remember? I know they'll remember nothing. They'll take away nothing. What they'll have is what people are saying that will dominate. Right? All the facts will be forgotten. They will not be retained. They won't. But they will know social reality because that's the crap that's being waved in front of their face all the time, repeatedly, reinforced, which is always simple, superficial, lacking in the facts, involving some twisted distortion, right? And people will people fall for that? They always do. All right, so what I'll do right now is I'll start with Chris Cal's lies. All right, and how many do I have here? I have five of his big lies here. So we'll start with the first one. Chris Cal said that after Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, he drove down there in his truck, and then he climbed on top of the Superdome, and then he shot 30 looters. Right, that's what he claimed. He shot 30 looters. I'm just glad that he picked a nice round number, right? Petty larceny, like looting, is that a crime to be shot over and killed, right? So the real crime here is not the looting, but it's a killing. 1, that's vigilante. 2, that's murder. With 30 victims killed, right, that's mass murder, right? 30 killed would make it the fourth largest mass shooting in all U.S. history, right ahead of Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook, was a horrible shooting. 28 were killed. So Chris Cowell's worse than Sandy Hook, if what he said is true, right? Now, what Cowell said he did is no different than what Charles Whitman did, the bell tower sniper in Texas, or I think it was the University of Texas, right? Is no different from Sandy Hook or Orlando or Columbine or the Aurora movie theater shooting, right? Or any other mass killings in America. He's saying this like he's a big hero, right? I'm stopping all the looters, right? I'm killing all the looters, right? Now, if this really happened, why wasn't there an investigation? Why wasn't he charged? With at least 30 shots, right? He said he killed 30 looters, right? So I'm assuming, if he's a good shot, it's just one shot, one kill, like a good sniper, right? But that's still 30 shots. With 30 shots, why weren't there any witnesses, right? If he killed 30 looters, there's looters all about. So there have been plenty who would not been shot, right? If he killed 30, surely there would have been plenty of people who saw the victims go down. Surely there have been plenty of people who heard the rifle reports coming from the top of the Superdome, right? With all the looters, why didn't anyone see the bodies dropping left and right? I mean, there's 30 bodies he killed, right? Why were there no news reports of the shootings? Why were there no police reports or coroner reports of the bodies found with bullet holes? Why were there no bodies found filled with bullet holes? So in Louisiana, the penalty for murder is death, right? There's a death penalty. If Cowell really shot 30 unarmed civilians, he'd be on death row right now. All right, so that's Cowell's first lie, flagrant lie, and it's to build himself up as like the superhero who's going after the bad guys, right? Now, here's Cowell's second lie. He said that he got carjacked at a gas station by two men. He then surreptitiously pulled out a pistol, right, and shot both men dead. Okay, so he killed two guys. All right, at a gas station. Now, why didn't he call the police? If that happened to me, the first thing I would do is call the police to make sure that I'm not accused of some erroneous murder or reckless homicide or manslaughter, right? One of those three charges, right? Why was there no police report? There was no local police report. There's no county or state police report. There was actually two local jurisdictions, two towns, right? And I forget what reporter for some newspaper went down there and investigated. No police report from any law enforcement who had jurisdiction down there, local, county, or state. Why was there no coroner's reports? Why is there no security camera footage from the gas station? These gas stations, have security cameras. They're so cheap now. What about the gas station attendant? Why, he would have heard the shots. Why didn't he report that to the police? Why were there no bodies found? Did Cowell have a shovel in the back of his pickup truck, right? Toss the bodies in the back and then haul them out to somewhere, a secluded place, and bury them? And why would he do that if he was innocent? So, again, he's making up a story to build himself up. This is self-promotion. All right. His third lie, he was actually sued for $1.845 million for, and he lost, right? So Chris Cowell claimed in his book that Jesse Ventura went to the funeral of a fellow Navy SEAL. Cowell was a Navy SEAL. Jesse Ventura was a Navy SEAL. And one of their fellow Navy SEALs was he was having a funeral. He died because he jumped on a hand grenade, sacrificed himself to save his buddies. All right. And they're having a funeral for him. They're celebrating, his life. And honoring a fellow fallen Navy SEAL. And then Cowell says that Jesse Ventura claimed that, Navy SEALs deserve to have a few of the people die. I'll give you the exact quote of what he said later. And he said he knocked Ventura down, gave him a black eye. Cowell said police were there, and he ran from the scene. I'll read an excerpt when we get to his actual statements from the book. All right, I'll get word for word what he said in the book. Now, I've also seen an interview on Fox News on YouTube with Bill O'Reilly, in which he claimed that the police were there and he ran from that scene. Right. So now Jesse Ventura, he wrote this in his book, and he did. First of all, he didn't call Jesse Ventura by name. He called him Scruffface, right? We'll get to that in a second. So Jesse Ventura sued and won a $1.845 million defamation suit against the Cal estate. Cal's wife appealed, but it was summarily thrown out, right? Cal's first claim of this story is found in his book American Sniper, where he didn't call Jesse Ventura by name. He used a pseudonym, Scruffface. Now, why would he do that? If Jesse Ventura really did this, right, why would he have to use, a pseudonym, Scruffface, right? Never calling him by name. If this incident really occurred, why did he just be forthright and say Jesse Ventura? Why is he being sneaky about this, like he's protecting himself from any potential defamation suit? He wants to get the story out, but then, doesn't want to, link himself to the person directly to protect himself, right? Now, there's no way I believe that Jesse Ventura, a Navy SEAL, traveled all the way to California to honor a fellow fallen Navy SEAL, one who threw his body on a grenade to save his buddies, winning the Medal of Honor, and then say he deserved to die along with a few more of his comrades, right? That's outrageous. That's why he was sued, right? Cal was sued, because he's making an outrageous, hateful claim against Jesse Ventura. Right? There's no way Jesse Ventura or any other normal human being would do something like that, especially at his funeral. To accuse someone of saying that, that's the real crime, right? To accuse someone of doing something like that is libel. It's defamation. Cal said the cops were there, and so he fled the scene. He said that. That's what he said in the Bill O'Reilly interview on YouTube, right? Now, assault is a serious crime. Why wasn't a police report filed? This is assault, right? Why didn't the cops pursue Cal and arrest him? Why wasn't he charged with fleeing the scene of a crime, which I believe is a felony, not a misdemeanor? But either way, it is a crime. Fleeing the scene compounds the crime, right? So the assault is a crime, compounded by fleeing the scene. I wonder, did those policemen testify in the lawsuit? I don't know, but I'm guessing they were phantom cops who never really existed. Why would on-duty cops be hanging out at a Navy SEAL bar to begin with, right? That they're there. Cops are there, and I had to run. I mean, come on, right? Ventura said he doesn't recall ever meeting Chris Cal, right? With a bar crowded with Navy SEALs and plenty of other people there, why wasn't there a long line of people testifying to this incident? There would be oodles of people, 30, 40 people, right? Big gathering, celebrating the life of a fallen soldier, right? Because the alleged incident occurred in a crowded bar, I would guess there would be at least 20 witnesses, probably more. Yet there were only 2 witnesses for Cal, and both of them were his buddies, and their testimonies conflicted with each other and were seen as not credible. I guess they didn't think ahead and get their story straight. They didn't get together and get their story straight. Their testimony must have been unbelievable since Jesse Ventura won the lawsuit. Now, Cal said that rumor has it that very next day at the Bud's graduation, which Jesse Ventura attended, he had a big black eye. Right? Now, Jesse Ventura has a heart problem, so he's on anticoagulant medication. So a punch to his face, given that he's on anticoagulant medication, right, which hinders the coagulation of blood. A punch in the eye in his face, hard enough to knock down a big guy like Jesse Ventura would have caused a pretty severe hematoma, right? A big black eye, right? Definitely big black eye with on anticoagulants, blood thinners, maybe even cranial or cerebral hemorrhage if he banged his head, which could be life-threatening. After all, Ventura's a large man. To knock him down with a punch would require a lot of force. Yet a picture of Jesse Ventura taken that same day, right, showed no marks on him whatsoever, on the day of the Bud's graduation. So Jesse Ventura is a picture of himself, a dated picture, and there's nothing on him. Now, Chris Cal said he personally discovered weapons of mass destruction material in containers marked French and German, and that the U.S. government, this is what he said in his book, right, and the U.S. government was keeping that a secret so as not to embarrass the French and Germans. I mean, what a load of crap, right? We went into Iraq. What was the main pretext for going into Iraq, right? Oh, they're going to give weapons of mass destruction to terrorists, right? Which is it's a total load of crap, And, first of all, they didn't have weapons of mass destruction. And second of all, why would they give it to radical religious fundamentalist terrorists when those are the people who would use it first on Iraq? It doesn't make sense. They wanted to take Iraq to make that their caliphate. But anyway, so we went in with a pretense of, we got to find weapons of mass destruction, right? This is about economics, right? This whole thing was about economics. This was about big money, big contracts, right? The Bush administration was desperate to find WMD because that was the sole basis of the trumped-up rationale. Of course, they linked it to 9/11, which Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11, right? Now, if they really found WMD, there would be no chance in hell, right? They're desperate to justify their attack, the whole invasion, right? A huge operation with many lives lost, many, not just, way more Iraqi lives, but a lot of U.S. lives. A lot of money is going to have to be spent on this war. They're desperate to justify it by finding weapons of mass destruction, and they scoured the country. If they really did find weapons of mass destruction, there's no way they would have lied and said, oh, okay, we didn't find it, right? To protect the French and the Germans? Who gives a crap about the French and the Germans? There's no way they would lie and conceal that to prevent the Germans and French from being embarrassed. Well, we don't want to embarrass our allies. Come on, right? I don't believe this for a second. In fact, the DILFR, the official report by the DILFR, United Nations Weapons Inspection Team, said that Iraq, from released in 2004, a full year after they'd been searching for weapons of mass destruction, they said there's no weapons of mass destruction, and Iraq had no weapons of mass destruction program since 1991, after the first Gulf War. So does Chris Cal, is he just mistaken, or is this another flagrant lie? There is zero possibility that they would lie to not claim they found WMD when they actually did, just to save face for the French and Germans, who they probably didn't give a crap about anyways. The Bush administration would have been jumping up and down if they found WMD, waving that in the air, saying, "See, I told you so. See, I told you so. We found it." When they didn't. Now, here's another one of his big lies. This one's another one to build himself up. Chris Cal and his wife claimed that they donated all the profits from his book, American Sniper, to veterans organizations and to veterans. All right. So at the time when they were making this claim, the book had earned them $3 million of profit, and they claimed they gave it all away. Right. However, they did give some. They gave $52,000. All right. Now, $52,000 is not $3 million. That's less than 2%. Right. They said they gave the whole thing away to build themselves up. They're self-promoting again, right? When they didn't. All right. Now, why $52,000? Well, here's an article from a magazine which quotes Kyle, says, as it became a bestseller, he gave 2/3 to the fallen families of teammates and the rest to a charity. So he's saying he gave the whole damn thing away. Rest to charity that helped wounded veterans. It was something he and Taya discussed a lot. In the New Yorker, it was reported that Kyle split the earnings between Del Felice and McGowan, the Ghost writers, and donated his profits to the families of fallen soldiers. So everything he made, he gave away, he said, right? Kyle perpetuated this idea, telling the same proceeds went to charity, a tale to the Texas News Service he gave, and even adding that he regularly received tearful calls and letters of thanks, right? They're all thankful for him because he gave away all his proceeds. What a good guy he is. Well, he didn't, right? He gave less than 2%. And now for the kicker, it isn't true. Out of the staggering $3 million that American Sniper collected in royalties for Kyle as of June 30th, 2013, only $52,000 actually went to families of fallen servicemen. Rather than 100% of the proceeds, as the public was led to believe, try 2%. Well, it's actually less than 2%. While Kyle's widow claimed in her testimony that they never intended to profit from the book and wanted to donate the money to other veterans, she said they weren't able to because, get this, gift tax laws that prevented them from donating more than $13,000 to each of the two families last year. Okay. So here's the thing, right? One, there's no limit to donations. You could donate as much as you want. He could have donated all of it, right? They're not prevented by tax, right? Which is a distortion. However, you can only benefit from deducting up to 50% of your adjusted gross income, right? So what it's saying is, he said he earned $3 million. He can get tax write-offs for $1.5 million, right? According to that rule, as far as I understand it. So you can benefit up to 50% of your income, right? So he could benefit from 1.5 million. He could have donated that and benefited, right? Two, there is a donation limit of $13,000, all right, or $26,000 for a married couple to any single donee, right? Anything above that will require payment of a gift tax. But here's the thing, right? You can donate to an infinite amount of donees, right? So you can make an infinite amount of 26,000 donations and not be taxed on that, right? So they gave to only 2 families. So there you go. That's the 26,000 times 2 is 52,000, right? So if they gave more to each family, gave more than 26,000 to each family, they would be taxed on whatever's above that. So if they gave $30,000 to a family, they'd be taxed on $4,000. And the reason for that is the government wants to prevent untaxed transfers of funds, claiming that's a gift when it could be a payment, right? It'd be a non-tax payment. So that's the idea behind that. So they didn't have to limit themselves to 2 families. They could have donated it all away. So this isn't honest. So this definitely is not. But in any event, right? For them, you can tell it's about maximizing tax benefit. So by giving the donation, they want a tax benefit and they want to avoid any tax penalty. But they could have donated to many more families, but they didn't. So bottom line is, their claim of donating 100% of the earnings is a pure lie. And then their claim of why they didn't, they're covering a lie with another lie. And what's the purpose of the original lie? To make themselves look good. Oh, we donated all the money away. Well, that's just a flat lie. So through all these examples of their lies, one is they're flagrant, they're fantastic, they're extreme lies, and the second part of each of these is they're all meant to build themselves up, to be self-promoting, right? So does that speak to character? Yeah, it does. Absolutely speaks to character. Does it speak to motives? Possibly, right? A big motive is to build himself up. Now, be honest. Is Chris Kyle a pathological liar? Well, he's an extreme liar. He's an extraordinary liar. What's the definition? What's the clinical definition of pathological liar? Well, I don't know for sure. I'm not a psychologist, right? But, as a layman, I would say, well, he fits the bill of a pathological liar. Those are some pretty extreme lies. Now, be honest. Is the purpose of these fantastic lies, just bragging, right? It's self-promotion. Review each lie, right? He claims, he's bragging that he killed 30 looters, right? Bragging that he killed 2 guys at a gas station, right? Bragging that he punched out Jesse Ventura when Jesse Ventura's like, what? I don't even know this guy, right? Bragging that he gave all his money away when he gave less than 2%. And he gave it away to get tax benefits, right? Didn't give more to avoid any tax benefits. And he could have given more, right? Simply by giving to more families. So be honest. Does this pattern of extraordinary lies speak to his character? Right? Are they pathological? Is there a clear element of megalomania in each of these claims, these false lying claims? Okay, so that's so we've established, right? It's pretty clear. It's clearly established that Chris Kyle is a liar. Is he a pathological liar? I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, right? But it would seem that way for me. But you can still say it's clear that there's a deep tinge of megalomania in his lies, right? He wants to build himself up. All right, does that speak to motivation? Yeah, it does, right? Does that prove anything as far as his kills? No, it doesn't, right? But does it make me want to question him? Yeah, it does, right? And you'll see more. You'll see more about his hatefulness, his simple-minded, pure hate for the Iraqi people. All right, so we're going to take some direct excerpts from his book. Here's the title of his book, American Sniper, the autobiography of the most lethal sniper in U.S. military history. Stated claims. All right, so the first thing he says, this is the very first line of his book. The things that happen in his book are true, right? That's the very first line of his book. You know, I mean, why do you start off a book like that, right? Right? You expect people not to believe it, you know, or you expect the people to believe he's a liar. I mean, I'm not questioning it. You know, anything he says in his book, right? Right? We'll take it for face value, but the fact that he feels like he's got to justify him, you know, himself, you know, just kind of irks me. All right, let's go down to. So here's some of his here's an example of his black and white, grossly oversimplistic perception of what's going on in Iraq. Right? He says from his book, savage, despicable, evil. That's what we were fighting in Iraq. That's why a lot of people, myself included, called the enemy savages. There were really no other way to describe what we encountered there. People ask me all the time, how many people have you killed? My standard response is, does it matter? Does it make me less or more of a man? That number is not important to me. I only wish I'd killed more, not for bragging rights, but because I believe the world is a better place without savages out there taking American lives. So he says the number's not important to me. Well, you know what? Throughout the rest of the book, numbers clearly are important to him. He wanted to get his numbers up. He said he wanted to build his reputation, right? He wanted to be the top sniper. So this is not true. Numbers are not important to me. Numbers throughout his book isn't absolutely clear that the numbers were important to him, that he wanted to be the top sniper, right? And that there was a competition to get the most kills, right? He also looked up the Karl Hathcock, who had 93 kills, he said, right? And that he enjoyed the reputation and recognition of having so many kills. He said there's benefits to the reputation, right? We'll get to that quote short enough. That having the most kills would make him the top sniper, which he said he wanted to be. He enjoyed the benefits of reputation. This guy was an extreme braggart, right? So black and white, gross oversimplification of reality here. He said the people we were fighting in Iraq after Saddam's army fled or was defeated were fanatics. They hated us because we were Muslim. They wanted to kill us even though we just booted out their dictator because we practiced a different religion than they did. The fanatics we fought valued nothing but their twisted interpretation of religion. All right. So is it that simple? Is that really that Muslims fought us because they hate us because we're not Muslim, right? So was it really that simple? They hated you because you're not Muslim? On his arm, Kyle had a red Crusader cross tattooed in red, representing blood, he said. Right? We'll get to this direct quote. Militaristic bloodthirst is a twisted interpretation of Christianity. That is not Christian at all. Bloodthirsty militarism is the opposite of Christianity. Who's got a distorted? He says they got a twisted and distorted version of religion. Well, who's got a twisted and distorted version of their religion? He does. That's not Christianity. Kyle is the one who has a twisted interpretation of religion. Not only does Kyle have a grossly oversimplistic and twisted perception of why Iraqis were fighting us, right? Nothing to do about how we invaded the country for no good reason, and how we killed over 123,000 civilians, and how we destroyed cities and on and on. We totally disrupted their society. Well, I'll get to some of the things we've done, right? Including de-Baathification, including dismantling entirely the military, both of which created not only great turmoil but also the insurgency war. Along with a ridiculously distorted view of why we were fighting there, Kyle is guilty of the very same bigoted thinking he's accusing the Iraqis of having. So he's projecting this upon them. He has those bigoted views, right? How about invading their country for no justifiable reason? Weren't involved in 9/11, all right? Weren't connected to Al-Qaeda, didn't have WMD, was not a terrorist threat. Richard Clarke said that they were not a terrorist threat. That's a quote from Against All Enemies, Richard Clarke's book. And who was Richard Clarke? He was a top anti-terrorist czar during Bush and Clinton, right? He was there in 9/11 when... So this is what Clarke said. Here's a quote from Clarke. I am unaware of any Iraq-sponsored terrorism directed to the United States, Paul, since 1993, and I think the FBI and CIA concur in that judgment. Right, John? I pointed to CIA Deputy Director John McLaughlin, who was obviously not eager to get into the middle of the debate between the White House and the Pentagon, but nonetheless replied, yes, that is right, Dick. We have no evidence of any active Iraqi terrorist threat against the United States. Okay, there you go. That's coming straight from the horse's mouth. Deputy Director of the CIA, right, confirming the top anti-terrorist expert of the nation, Richard Clark, who is in charge of gathering and correlating all U.S. intelligence agencies' data on the terrorist threat. Okay, black and white gross oversimplification of reality. He said, the enemies we're fighting were savages. So is he dehumanizing them? Would that make it easier to identify targets and kill them? The enemies we're fighting were savages and well armed. In just one house, the Marines found roughly 24 guns, including machine guns, sniper rifles, along with homemade rocket stands and mortar bases. All right. So, well, what I want to show here is he says the fanatics we fought value nothing more than a twisted interpretive religion. Is that really what the insurgents were thinking? Right? We invaded their country under false pretexts. I'd have to. I know I've taught the Bush manipulation scheme, dozens and dozens of times, and I know that no one remembers a single thing from that. Right? How it was done. Right? It was total manipulation, timed with the 1 year anniversary of 9/11. I'm not going to get into. I can't explain it all again. Right? But the whole country and Congress was manipulated into congressional resolutions which authorized the president to use whatever force he wanted in Iraq, which resulted in the Iraq invasion war. Right? We caused the death of over 123,000 civilians, Iraqis. Right? That's a lot of civilians killed. We destroyed their country and their economy. We ignited a sectarian war in which there's daily Sunni and Shia terrorism, Muslim on Muslim terrorism. Right? So we not only do we create a war against us, we create a war between them. So the whole country's at war with each other and against us. We support the Shia militia, right? And who's the guy that authorized that support? Well, it was Donald Rumsfeld handpicked Colonel Steele to be the U.S. liaison for the Shia militia, and then we financed them, we armed them. Right? And what methods were they using? They're using kidnap, torture, death squads, similar to the counterinsurgency methods we taught in the School of Americas in Fort Benning, Georgia, and in mobile training teams throughout South and Central America. Right? And who's the chief supervisor of the Shia militia? Right? Colonel Steele. Who was Colonel Steele during the 1980s? He was the head of the mobile training team in El Salvador, teaching U.S. counterinsurgency methods inspired by the French, and which were brutal, using kidnap, torture, death squads. Right? Reagan administration said, "We're taking the gloves off. We're gonna get nasty here." Right? Jimmy Carter pulled back in 76 to 80, but then Reagan came in and said, "Yep, we're unleashing it." So we set up detention centers throughout Iraq where there's not just humiliation, but there's torture, right? And what that was, that torture was that authorized by the Bush administration? Absolutely. The official legal statement by the Bush administration on torture was written by what the hell is this guy's name? I think it's Chu. He was a Chinese guy, right? American Chinese guy, right? I can see his face and I can't stand the guy, but he wrote this. He basically was taking off the gloves for the Bush administration also, and he wrote this for what was they called they used a euphemism, enhanced interrogation techniques. For enhanced interrogation techniques to be considered torture, they would have to produce pain equivalent to the pain experienced through an organ failure or death. Right? I mean, that's ridiculous. Is there like a pain meter in which it says in the meter, okay, this is pain. You hook this guy's like an electroencephalograph to his brain. You hook it up to the machine, and then it has a meter gauge there that goes up, and the arm goes up to, okay, this is pain equivalent to organ failure, right? Okay, this is pain equivalent to death. No, there's no machine like that. You don't know. The only way you're going to know that the person has experienced pain equivalent to organ failure or death is if the person's organs fail, or the person dies, right? So what they're saying is nothing is torture unless there's organ failure or death, So through a clever legal way, the Bush administration policy was nothing is torture unless there's organ failure or death. There's nothing, the guy's got to die in order to be torture. And then the next page, that's on the very first page of their policy statement. The very next page, it says that, well, anyone who is guilty of committing torture because someone died or the organs failed and then they died, right? Well, they're not guilty because to be proven guilty, you have to show that there was direct intent to break the law. What does that mean? You have to prove that it had direct intent of violating the law and killing the person. Well, you know that it's not going to happen. They're going to say, well, things happen while we're interrogating them, right? They died, right? Well, you cannot prove that they had specific intent to kill a person. So what it's saying is, anything unless they die is not torture. Nothing is torture unless they die. And then you say, well, if they die, no one gets prosecuted, no one gets convicted, right? No one gets even charged, right, under the law. So that was, the Bush administration, and that's why we set up these detention centers and we torture the crap out of people, right? And you'll see that we tortured a lot of innocent people, right? So these programs were bastardized, right? I'll explain this later because Chris Kyle mentioned that. He blames the Iraqis. He doesn't blame the fact that we set up this program, right? These programs are bastardized in the same manner the Phoenix operation was bastardized in the Vietnam War, where a lot of innocent people were being accused by each other. All right, so black and white gross oversimplification, simplistic perception of reality again, right? This guy's simple-minded and he's distorted and he's bigoted and biased. My country sent me out so that the bullshit wouldn't make its way back to our shores. Well, what did we just say? Richard Clark, the top anti-terrorist expert, and the deputy director of the CIA, saying no, there's no terrorist threat to the United States, right? According to Richard Clark, the anti-terrorist czar under Clinton and Bush, right? And he's in charge of all the intelligence agencies work on anti-terrorism. They agreed that Iraq was not a terrorist threat to the United States. Oh, this bullshit's going to come back to the United States. What a load of crap, right? We made that. Kyle says bullshit. Well, we made that bullshit. We made that crazy chaos when we invaded the country, right? We set, what's going to set taking out the central authority in a country where you have Shia, Sunni, and Kurds all at each other's throat. Well, you're going to unleash a sectarian war. There's going to be civil war, right? And by invading a country with military force, military occupation, you're going to set off an insurgency war. And not just that, we had de-Baathification, we had dismantling of the entire Iraqi army. That's going to lead directly to they're going to all those soldiers kicked out. They're going to go get their weapons. They're going to fight us, right? And who was the insurgency? Was it Al Qaeda? Hell no, right? Al Qaeda was a very small group compared to Al Qaeda. Barely existed, right? They only existed in northern Kurdish-controlled Iraq, which was off limits to Saddam after 1991. That was a zone that was no-fly zone, right? Protected by the U.S. and the UN, right? And there was only a small group of about 200 or less of a religious radical group that was related to Al Qaeda, and Saddam Hussein was trying to infiltrate that group and try to gain intelligence on them. Why? Because they're a threat to him, right? That's what was in Iraq at the time. He was knocking off all the threats to him, all right? All right. So, and what happened after we go in? That blew up to about 2,000, right? But who were the vast majority of insurgents? They were ex-Iraqi military, not Al-Qaeda. We go in, kick them out. Well, they're going to fight us. That's exactly what happened, right? They went and got their weapons. So we created the bullshit there. Of course, the foreign military occupation will cause an insurgency. That always happens. You go in. If someone came in, someone had the power, some other country had the power to come in, invade us, like take control of us, occupy us, well, people are going to go and fight. They're going to create an underground guerrilla movement. whether it's ex-military, right, or an average citizen. You can have militias, right? You can have Joe Schmo, who's got his sport assault rifle, right? Or you got Joe Schmo who's going to go to Dick's Sporting Good, buy whatever he can, right? So we exponentially increased the terrorist threat. So our invasion actually greatly increased the terrorist threat. Fighting terrorism, they weren't a threat to us, but we increased it, right? In fact, our invasion was a key inspiration for the formation of ISIS. We'll get to that. How in multiple ways our invasion led to the formation of ISIS. All right. So this is simplistic, right? Oh, bullshit here. Yeah, we're keeping the bullshit here from becoming American shores. What a load of crap. At one point I told the Army colonel, I don't shoot people with crayons. I'd like to, but I don't. So he's saying in his book that he wants to shoot people with crayons, but he doesn't, right? He's saying he doesn't, right? So what does that say? That says that he is grossly bigoted, right? He doesn't discriminate people on a person by person basis. That all people with Muslims, he wants to shoot all people with who are Muslims, right? Muslims have Qurans, Christians have Bibles. He says this, quote, on the front of my arm I had a Crusader cross inked in. I wanted everyone to know I was a Christian. I had put in red. I had put in red for blood. I hated the damn savages I'd been fighting. I always will. All right. So he says he wants to kill all people with crayons, but he doesn't, right? Because they have a crayon, because they're Muslim, he wants to kill them, right? Killing out of hate is not Christian. In fact, it's the antithesis of Christianity. Instead of having a real Christian cross tattooed, Cal had a Crusader cross tattooed in red, standing for blood. Right? Is that Christian? No, that's the antithesis of Christianity. Cal said the red cross stands for blood, but I think the red really stands for, I'm just joking here, it stands for redneck. From what he's saying in a simple, all right, so here's a picture of a Crusader cross. Right, in red. Simplistic and biased perception of reality here. Quote: knowing that Americans would bring a suspect in, people were using tips to settle grievances or feuds. They talked to the army or some other authority, making claims about a person, helping the insurgency or committing some other crime. It sucked for the person we arrested, but I didn't get all that worked up about it. It was just one more example of how screwed up the country was. Okay, so for one, there's two issues here. One, he's blaming them for this situation, and not the fact that we set up a arrest, detention, and torture program. All right, and then he's saying that I don't care. It's their fault. Right? I didn't get too worked. He says it sucked for the person we arrested. Well, why did it suck? Because they're once arrested, they're thrown into detention centers. What happens when they're thrown into detention centers? They were humiliated in the worst possible ways, and they were tortured. Right? But I didn't get too worked up about it. Oh, he's got a good sense of justice here, good sense of fairness, good sense of right and wrong. I don't care. Right? It was just an example of how screwed up the country was. Oh, like they made it that way. So we did the same thing in Vietnam. In Vietnam, we had a program called the Phoenix Operation. The Phoenix Operation was an assassination program conceived of by the CIA, conducted largely by special forces, right? Conceived by the CIA, right? Now, what happened in that situation is, they started whacking people, and it's based upon tips that local people would give. Some would say, "Oh, he's a communist," right? So what it quickly de-evolved into, what it degenerated into, was a way to get the Americans to kill off someone you want killed off, right? And then what happened after that is it further degenerated to I better rat out my enemy before he rats me out. So people were ratting each other out who were totally innocent, right? So that the U.S. forces would kill them, right? and it was kill them first before you're killed, right? So it just escalated the number of innocent people who are killed. Now, that's naturally going to happen when you set up a program like this, right? People are going to be fearful. If someone set up that program in America, and someone had bad blood with someone else, and they're worried that person may rat them out, well, they'll rat them out first and have them killed first. So it's naturally going to evolve because we set up a program like that. But no, he blames them. And then he says, well, I don't give a damn. Whatever, right? He doesn't care about injustice. Not only does Cal show a simplistic mind, it shows how his complete disregard for justice and morality. He knows innocent people are being falsely accused, and it sucks for them. Why? Because they're sent to these detention centers, right, where they're tortured and humiliated, and they have to exist 24/7 in brutal, harsh conditions. Even when you're not being specifically tortured, it was brutal. You're always standing naked. You're always standing up. You're always chained to something where you can't sit down. This is called stress positions. Second, he blames it completely. He doesn't care. He says he doesn't care. Second, he blames it completely upon them. It had nothing to do with our invasion and military occupation and our setting up the detention to torture system, right? Which, you rely upon people ratting each other out to make arrests, right? Now, this exact same thing happened when we set up the Phoenix operation, right? During the Vietnam War, the CIA ran an assassination program called Phoenix. The Vietnamese would do the exact same thing Iraqis did, right? They would falsely accuse bitter rivals to get the U.S. to assassinate them. Why? Because it created conditions where it was better to lie and rat out your enemy before he ratted you out, right? So once that program starts going, you got to start thinking, you start looking over your shoulder at your longtime, some neighbor you got bad blood with, right? So then you start thinking, and you start worrying, and then you think, well, I better rat him out before he rats me out. So then a lot of innocent people are being, ratted out, then sent to the Americans to be killed. And this was going on, and this has been going on for ages. So this is the very same thing that the Jews did to kill Jesus Christ, right? The Jews, I just covered this in the book of Matthew, chapter 27, where the Jews were cowards. They wanted desperately to kill Jesus Christ, but they were afraid of being, the blowback from his followers. So they maneuvered in every possible way to get Pilate to kill him for them, right, to protect themselves. So it's using the occupier. So who are the Romans? The occupiers, the military occupation. Using the military occupation to kill off your enemy. It's nothing new, right? So what happened here happened in Vietnam. It happened way back in Israel 2,000 years ago. So if the United States were invaded and there was a breakdown in normal civil society with an outside force hunting down insurgents, any money, there would be plenty of Americans doing the exact same thing, right? An easy way to knock off their enemy, or once that starts rolling, right, you're worried your enemy's going to rat you out, so you rat them out first. Callous disregard for injustice, right? He doesn't care, right? It's totally cavalier. This is wrong. This is not Christian, right? They're being tortured, right? Whatever. That's their problem. His gross simplistic perception of reality, right? So here he's talking about possible factor in callous perception of reality. He's talking about himself. This is his own words. Quote, "On the darker side, I was extremely hot-headed. I have always had a temper, even before becoming a SEAL, but it was more explosive now. If someone cut me off, not a very rare occurrence in California, I could get crazy. I might try to run them off the road or even stop and whip their ass." All right. So he's admitting himself. He's got an extraordinary temper problem, right? Where if someone just cuts him off on the road, he would run them off the road, right? Which is dangerous. And then he would, try to whip their ass, he says. Now, why were insurgents fighting Americans? I'm sure they hated us, but they hated us because we invaded their country, destroyed it, killed a lot of the people, including a lot of civilians, used widespread torture and humiliation, for example. Well, of course they're going to hate us, right? Did hating Americans and fighting against them make them savages? In Cal's view, they did. But did he not hate them just as much? Right? So he goes on how he hated them. right? We'll see how more of his statements, how he hated them, right? And he said he had a hate problem. He said he had an anger problem, out of control anger problem. So wasn't Kyle just as much a savage in hating them, calling them savages, saying that he said he had fun killing them. He said he made a game. We'll see his quotes. He said he made a game out of killing them. Absolutely. Does that make him just as much a savage? If you have fun killing people, regardless of circumstance, I'd say that's pretty savage, right? He pointed the finger at savages. Well, who's the savage? Look at all the anger and hate in the statement to the left, right? If you have that much anger and hate, could that alter and bias your targeting, right? Especially if you hate all Muslim people, where he said himself he'd like to kill all Muslim people. Combined with that hate, right? I'm just you can't. I can't make an absolute claim on his target assessments, right? But I'm just saying that these are things that distort and bias perceptions. And do people distort and bias their perceptions for various reasons? Yes, right? People always distort and bias their perceptions. If you take witness testimony, it's all distorted and biased, right? That's why witness testimony is unreliable. So people do distort and bias things. Are these elements that will lead to distortion and bias? Absolutely, right? Now, people are not going to keep this in mind and say, oh, that's crazy. No, this is just simple fact, right? He's saying this stuff. Here's his cavalier attitude toward killing, right? He's not a tortured soul like Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood in his movie paints Kyle to be like, oh, it hurts him to shoot people, People ask me all the time, how many people have you killed? My standard response is, does it matter? Does it make me less or more of a man? The number's not important. Oh, numbers are important to him. You will see. I only wish I killed more. Oh, okay, that's a little cavalier. So let's go through another cavalier attitude toward killing, and not a tortured soul, as Clint Eastwood paints him to be. There's another question people ask me a lot. Did it bother you killing so many people in Iraq? I tell them no. And I mean it. The first time you shoot someone, you get a little nervous. You think, can I really shoot this guy? Is it really okay? But after you kill your enemy, you see that it's okay. You say, great, no big deal. You do it again and again. You do it so the enemy won't kill you, right? Or your countrymen. You do it until there's no one left for you to kill. That's what war is. Oh, is that what war is? Killing everyone so you have no one left to kill? That's how you win a war, right? I mean, this guy has a simple-minded understanding of military theory. It's a joke. I love what I did. I still do. See, he loved what he did. If circumstances were different, if my family didn't need me back home, I'd be back there in a heartbeat. I'm not lying or exaggerating to say it was fun. So he had fun killing. I had the time of my life being a SEAL. It was fun, right? So he said, I'm not lying or exaggerating to say it was fun. Here's a quote from him, from his book, Building My Rep, page 191. I love what I was doing. Maybe war isn't really fun, but I certainly was enjoying it, right? I don't shoot people with crayons. I like to, but I don't. I miss the excitement and thrill. I love killing bad guys, right? Oh, he's not a broken torture soul. He's having fun. But at times it was a game. This is a direct quote. At times it was a game. When you're in a firefight every day, you start looking for a little variety. And the game, he said, was to see what weapons he can use to make the kill. Is that pretty cavalier about killing? Absolutely. Could that bias and alter distort his target selection? Absolutely could. I'm not saying it did, because you can't prove that. You cannot prove that unless you had actual video. But of all he says, I don't trust this guy. I was already sniping and loving it. So he loved killing, right? I only wish I killed more. After Kyle's first kill, quote, but I wondered, how would it feel about killing someone? Now I know. It's no big deal. So that's what he said about his first kill. In the movie, he's all upset. But what does he say? But I wondered, how would I feel about killing someone? Now I know. It's no big deal. So killing a person is no big deal for him. Here's another quote. Now I like war. Oh, he likes war. Man, this is going to be good. Cavalier attitude toward killing. Man, this is going to be good, I thought. We're going to kill massive amounts of bad guys. And I'm going to be in the middle of it. So he likes killing. Cavalier attitude toward killing, not a tortured soul. Building my rep. I love what I was doing. Maybe it isn't really fun, but I certainly was enjoying it. It suited me. Building my reputation. What does it mean? Obviously, reputation is important. If he has, this is the title to the section where he wrote this, right? So it's like a section heading, building my rep, right? That means reputation is important for him, and that means he's actively trying to build it. All right. What does that mean? That's part of his motivation, to build his reputation. Does that speak to character, to motivation? Yes, it does. All right. Does that prove anything? No, it doesn't. But you know what? Again, I don't trust this guy. Right. Obviously, reputation is important to him. He puts that in as a title of a section, building my rep. And desire for reputation is about ego. Later he says that there's benefits to reputation. We'll get to that quote. Clearly, he has a desire to create and build his reputation. That is clear motive apart from simply fighting a war, apart from duty, honor, courage, and sacrifice. Right? You get ego into this. Reputation, right? Is reputation important to him? Does that show through all his lies? Absolutely. Right? All his lies were to build up, to be self-promoting, to build himself up in this megalomaniac, maniacal, big hero. I never once fought for the Iraqis. Okay, cavalier attitude towards killing, not a tortured soul. Right? This shows his attitude, biased attitude towards Iraqis. I never once fought for the Iraqis. I could give a flying fuck about them. That's what he says. I could give a flying fuck about them. He writes that in his book. Right? Now, does that speak towards his attitude toward the Iraqi people, right, who are his targets? Anyone can be a Iraqi target. This statement is not simply callous disregard. This is a hateful statement towards Iraqi people, right? This is the exact sort of attitude that causes callous killing, which only breeds more hate and fuels more terrorist extremists, creates more opposition, right? Creates more backlash, which puts more U.S. soldiers at risk, all right? Cavalier attitude towards killing, not a tortured soul. At one point, I told the Army Colonel, I heard this already, I don't shoot people with crayons. I like to, but I don't. Cavalier attitude towards killing. And I missed it. I missed the excitement and the thrill. I love killing bad guys. So he got excitement and thrill out of killing guys. He missed the excitement and thrill of it. Duty, honor, courage, sacrifice. Should excitement and thrill and fun be a factor in your killing? Cavalier attitude towards killing, not a tortured soul, as Eastwood paints him out to be. When you're in a profession where your job is to kill people, you start getting creative about doing it. He's getting creative. He's making it a game here. We had so many targets in Vietnam. Now, that's no doubt a derogatory reference to Ramadan. In Vietnam, we started asking ourselves, what weapons have we not used to kill them? No pistol yet? You have to get at least one. We used different weapons for the experience, to learn the weapons' capabilities in combat. But at times it was a game. When you're in a firefight every day, you start looking for a little variety, a little fun of killing people, right? Make a game of it. Do you trust a guy like this who's making a game of killing? Cavalier attitude toward killing, not a tortured soul, right? Why do that when I was sniping and loving it? He's already having fun, shooting people. Cavalier attitude towards killing, not a tortured soul, as Clint Eastwood paints him to be. As a SEAL, you go to the dark side. You're immersed in it. Continually going to war, you gravitate to the blackest part of your existence. Your psyche builds up its defenses. That's why you laugh at gruesome things like heads being blown apart and worse. Growing up, I wanted to be in the military in the worst way, but I wondered, how would I feel about killing someone? Now I know it's no big deal. So it's easy for him to kill. No big deal, right? And he says he goes to the dark side, right? He laughs at people's heads being blown apart. Can that alter, bias, distort your assessment of a target as valid? Yes, it could, right? Can I prove it? Like I said, no, I can't, right? But everything this guy says, I don't trust this guy for a second. Not a tortured soul, as Eastwood paints him. Now I like war. I love doing my job. But it rankled me that the Navy was not keeping its word. Right? Bragging rights. So here he's talking about ego, right? And he's talking about jealousy. People ask me, how many people have you killed? Oh, no, this is just bragging rights. My standard response is, does it matter? Does it make me less or more of a man? Number is not important to me. I only wish I killed more of them. Not for bragging rights, but because I believe the world is a better place without savages out there killing Americans. Okay, killing Americans is not good, right? Right? We should have been there for one thing, right? Right? But he says not for bragging rights. Bragging rights comes throughout his book, right? It's about being a top sniper. It's about building his reputation, right? It's about getting his numbers up. The numbers really matter to him. Well, okay. Ego, reputation, numbers do matter to him. Building my rep. I love what I was doing. Maybe it wasn't really fun, but I certainly was enjoying it. It suited me. By this time, I had a bit of a reputation as a sniper. I had a lot of confirmed kills, right? Okay. It was now a very good number. Okay, so the number's good. He qualifies the number's good. So numbers do matter to him. For such a short period of time, or any period. So numbers do matter. But there were rumors around, am I stay added to my reputation? Is he concerned about his reputation? Such as it was. Yeah, he's concerned about his reputation. Right? What's his reputation based upon? The number of kills he's got. Right? And it seemed like everywhere I set up, I'd get a target. This started to piss off some of the other snipers. So, right, there's a competition here. Who could spend whole shifts every day without seeing anyone, let alone an insurgent. For a while, it didn't seem to matter what I did. Things would happen in front of me. I wasn't inventing incidents. I had witnessed from my shot. Oh, so he's got to be careful to clarify. I wasn't inventing it. I wasn't making it up. Why does he feel he's got to defend himself? I wasn't inventing the incidents. All right. Why would Cal? Okay, building my reputation. Who is building his reputation? He is. He's building his reputation. Is he concerned with his reputation? Absolutely. What drives the desire for reputation? Ego. Is Cal concerned about what people think of him? Without a doubt, he's concerned. He's talking about, how people are talking about him. He's concerned about that. Was there envy among snipers? Cal believes so. What drives envy? Ego. Why did Cal feel the need to assure the reader that he wasn't inventing situations? Ooh, okay. Recall what his buddies would say. He has building his rep. Okay, what is it? Okay. Okay, recall what his buddies would say. I don't have this direct quote here, but his buddies said this, right? He says this. My buddies will tell you that, Cal has a notch on his rifle scope, right? Anyone for Cal is within the rules of engagement, which means that anyone is a valid target. That's what Cal says his buddies would say about him, right? We'll get to that direct quote here coming up here. So I had a bit of a reputation as a sniper. I had a lot of confirmed kills. It was now a very good number, right? So he qualifies it as a good number, right? But there were rumors around, and my stay here only added to my reputation, such as it was, right? So he knows about his reputation. He's concerned about it. He talks about his reputation. Ego, reputation, numbers do matter. Carlos Norman Hathcock, the most famous member of our sniping profession, a true legend and a man whom I looked up to, tallied 93 confirmed kills during his 3 years tour in Vietnam War. I'm not saying I was in his class. In my mind, he was and always will be the greatest sniper ever, but in sheer numbers, at least, I was close enough for people to start thinking. All right, so numbers are important to him, all right? And what people think is important to him, for people to start thinking. I was close enough for people to start thinking. All right. Throughout his book, Cal is acutely concerned with what people think of him, although he comes across on the surface as being all humble. But you know that deep down, there's a lot of he's concerned about what people think. He's concerned about his reputation, right? And he does things to actively build his reputation. It's bleeding through in many aspects. Here's another instance. In many places, he talks about his reputation. Throughout the book, it is clear he wants to be the badass. He says that like 7-8 times. He uses the term term badass throughout the book, usually mostly in connection with his fights, which he brags about. The Navy SEALs are the best fighters, right? When you go in a bar, the women are all attracted to this. It gets them jealous, so that ends up in getting fights, right? Women gravitate towards Navy SEALs, he said. but more so recognized as being a badass. For his lies, he clearly has a megalomaniac desire to be a hero, right? You've seen that in his lies, if you remember, right? He has flagrant, crazy lies, and the purpose of these lies to like make himself into this like hero who's killing people. He repeatedly brags about all the bar fights he and his Navy SEALs have get into. He compares himself with Carlos Hathcock in 93 Kills. I was close enough for people to start thinking. Right? He's concerned about his reputation, which means he's concerned about how others see them, means he's concerned about his ego. Right? Ego, bragging rights. The number is not important to me. I only wish I had killed more. Not for bragging rights, he says, right? Man, throughout his book, he's talking about bragging rights. He calls himself the most lethal sniper in U.S. military history. Right? That's a title he gives himself on the cover of his book. Not ego, bragging rights. Numbers do matter. I had even more kills in Ramadan than in Fallujah. Not only did I finish with more kills than anyone else on the deployment, but my overall total made me the most prolific American sniper of all time. To us, the fancy official language. Right? So you know numbers are important to him. All right? You can tell that numbers of kills certainly did matter to Cal, despite what he says. There's no doubt he wants to be the top sniper with the most kills. Ego, reputation. Of course, having a reputation as a Navy SEAL does have its advantages. There's benefits to having reputation, right? So, again, right, he's concerned with reputation. Ego. He's acutely aware of the advantages of having a reputation. All right, ego, reputation, hero complex. The nickname The Legend had started back in Fallujah around the time of the beach ball incident, or maybe when I got that really long shot. Before that, my nickname had been Tex. Oh, we know the legend is here, they would say as soon as they saw me. All of a sudden, we hear there's 2 kills at Camp Ramadi. People are dying up north. We knew the legend was here. You're the only motherfucker who's ever killed anyone out there. I laughed. You could tell he relishes in the nickname The Legend. Ego, concerned with what other people think of him. It wasn't that I thought I was tougher or better than the Marines. It was that I knew that the way people looked at us, right? He's concerned about, again, another example how he's concerned about how people view him. And I didn't want to let those people down. I didn't want to fall in their eyes or in mine, right? This is concern about what other people think of him, right? It's not really concern about them. It's concern about himself and how they view him. He says, I didn't want to fall in their eyes, right? Right? Is he concerned about them feeling bad? No, he's concerned about himself. You know, if he fell in their opinion, he's worried about their opinion. This is all ego. This is about pride. Ego, jealousy. While away from his unit in Iraq, Cal was getting kills. His unit was assigned to the Philippines when they reunited. This is what the conversation, this is what he says. Quote, they came off the plane cussing me. Hey, asshole. And much worse than that. Like everything else they do, SEALs excel at foul language. Jealousy, dynamis SEAL. I wondered why I hadn't heard anything from them over the past few months. In fact, I was wondering why they were jealous. They had been sitting around hand-holding the Filipinos and hating life while I've been having all the fun. What's the funniest thing, right? He's getting the kills, right? Yeah, so getting kills is fun. Getting kills was a matter of pride and jealousy, and thus ego for the SEALs, right? Do numbers matter to him? Yeah, he says numbers don't matter. They do matter to him. It comes through everywhere. Jealousy is about greed. Jealousy is about selfishness and ego. Then Cal says, jealousy, thy name is SEAL. What drives jealousy? Ego, self. Having all the fun. Cal says you're killing people is fun. Do getting numbers of kills matter to Cal? Without a doubt, they do matter to him, right? Though he denies it. He'll say, kills don't matter. But throughout the book, getting numbers of kills absolutely matter to him. Is that a motivation? Could that possibly bias your assessment? Absolutely. In case, this is more of his ego complex, hero complex. He said that in case he washed out of buds, when he's going through buds is the first stage of SEAL training. It's kind of the weed out section. He said this: in case he was washed out of buds, he failed. He selected intelligence as his alternative because, quote, I naively thought I'd end up like James Bond. So, his backup is to be like a James Bond, right? Go into intelligence because he thought it'd be like James Bond. What's motivating this guy, right? Again, it's ego. Kyle later says, I bought a set of James Bond movies, some Clint Eastwood, John Wayne. I love John Wayne, right? So he's looking for this whole hero complex is an element in him. Ego, reputation, attitude. We wanted people to know we were out here. This is a bad motivation. We wanted people to know we're here and we want to fuck with you, right? It was our version of psyops. You see us, we're the people killing your ass, or we're the people kicking your ass. Fear us, because we will kill you, motherfucker. That's a direct quote from his book. So a motivation to him for killing is to instill fear, psyops, all right? Kyle is saying that he wants to fuck with people so that they fear him. What does fuck with people mean in war? It means killing them, right? His version of psyops. You want to trust a psyops operation to a simple-minded redneck like this? His version of psyops is to kill people to create fear. Is that a good reason? Okay, I took a little break there. We'll come back. We wanted people to know we are here and we want to fuck with you. It was our version of psyops. You see us, we're the people kicking your ass. Fear us, because we will kill you, motherfucker. All right, so part of his motivation is to put fear in people. All right. Is that a side motivation there? Could that bias and distort his assessment? Absolutely. Kyle is saying he wants to fuck with people so that they fear him. What does fuck with people mean? Well, he says it means kill you, motherfucker. All right. His version of psyops is to kill people to create fear. All right. So one of Kyle's stated motivations for killing was to mess with their heads with fear. All right. That's straight out his words. There was a bit of friction between SEALs and the SBUs back home in bars. SBUs, underwater. Where you'd occasionally hear some SBU members claiming to be SEALs. Team guys would think and sometimes say, that's like a taxi driver claiming to be a movie star because he drove someone to a studio. Okay, so this shows ego, right? He's comparing himself to a movie star for being a Navy SEAL, right? Without question, Kyle equates being a Navy SEAL to be a glamorous movie star. That's all ego. All right? Ego and hypocrisy. I'm not a numbers guy. SEALs are silent warriors, and I'm a SEAL down to my soul. As I hope I've made clear, I don't feel SEALs should be singled out publicly as a force. We don't need the publicity. We are silent professionals. Every one of us, the quieter we are, the better we are able to do our jobs. Quieter, huh? Well, Kyle's acutely concerned with numbers competition to be the top sniper, which he says he wants to be. Over and over, he talks about it in terms of building his reputation. How ridiculous is it for Kyle to say SEALs like to keep quiet about what they do so they can be better, they can do it better, when he blabs it to the world in a book about SEALs, about what SEALs do, explaining in detail their operation, especially sniper tactics, bragging on and on about their exploits, including bar fights. There's nothing quiet about him. He's the antithesis of quiet. His book is loaded with brags, though he tries to paint himself as humble. All right. Ego, reputation, motivation. There was a bit of a competition between myself and some other snipers. So this talks about the competition to be the top sniper with the most kills. There was a bit of a competition between myself and some of the other snipers. So he's part of this competition. He says he's part of this competition, which means, and to win this competition, you get to have the most kills. So numbers do matter to him, right? He says, "Oh, numbers don't matter to me." Numbers do matter. He wanted to be the top sniper. There was a bit of a competition between myself and some of the other snipers during this deployment to see who got the most kills. Oh, he wants the most kills. Did I want to be the top sniper? At first, there was 3 of us who had the most kills. Then 2 of us started pulling away. My competition was my sister platoon working on the east side of the city. My competition was in my sister platoon. His total shot up at one point, pulling ahead. Our big boss man happened to be on our side of the city, and he was keeping track of how the platoons were doing. As part of that, he had the sniper totals. He tweaked me a little. All right, he's tweaking him, trying to motivate him to get more kills, knowing that pride is going to tweak him. He tweaked me a little as the other sniper pulled out in front. He's going to break your record, he teased. You better get on that gun more. Well, things even out real fast. All of a sudden, I seem to have every stinking bad guy in the city running across my scope. My total shot up, and there was no catching me. Oh, okay. So suddenly, after he gets tweaked, these guys started running in front of his scope. All right. Well, maybe that really happened, right? Maybe there wasn't any. Maybe the competition didn't influence his assessment of a valid target. People don't bias and twist things in their heads. Subtly, shade things a little bit, right? They don't do that. Kyle states his motive in black and white. He wanted to be the top sniper, right? So numbers are important to him. They do matter. To him, it is a competition, right? His commanding officer knew that he wanted to be a top sniper, and he knew that he can tweak him. He says, tweak me, right? Right? So his commanding officer knows that ego is involved, right? And he wants to get Kyle to get his kills up, right? So he tweaks him to get Kyle to get more kills. This is a very different motivation, far apart from doing your duty, serving your country, protecting fellow soldiers, right? And doing things before God. I'm not saying he didn't do that. I'm saying that there were clearly and undeniably other motives as well, which were not pure and righteous, and that were corrupt. Right? To kill, to become the top sniper, to get your numbers up, right? Well, that's wrong. Getting kills to build your reputation, to be the top sniper is the worst motivation in war. Now, people are going to say, "Whoa, you can't. That doesn't prove he killed people unjustly." Could it bias the way he sees things? Could it shade it a little bit? Do people shade things slightly? Yeah, they do. Ego, concern with glory. Anger over glory obtained by his superiors. So he's concerned with the glory others obtain. Right? If you're concerned about glory others obtain, you're concerned about glory. Meanwhile, the brass got huge promotions and congratulations for their part of the war. They got the glory. Bullshit glory, he says. Bullshit glory for a war they didn't fight and the cowardly stance they took. Now, why should he be worried over glory? Why should he be worried over the glory someone else gets? Well, that's envy. Whatever his real underlying motive, without a question, he's concerned with glory and who gets it. Glory, therefore, is obviously important to him. If they were really cowards, he had a right to be concerned, right? But he shouldn't be concerned with glory, one way or the other. In this case, it's envy over glory, and envy is a product of covetousness. Right? Want of glory, envy of glory has nothing to do with being a selfless, sacrificing soldier, motivated by purely what's right and good. Glory should not be intermixed with this. It corrupts. And this, glory is about ego, right? You'll later hear a letter by Mark Lee, who was in Kyle's unit, another fellow SEAL and a close friend of him, writing about a person who was just blinded by a pursuit of glory. Right? Now, who's that person? He doesn't say, outright say, but Chris Kyle fits the bill to a T in all aspects. Right? Who's just a glory hound, seeking glory. Right? Is it clear? Is it clear glory matters to him? Absolutely. Mark Lee letter. Blinded by pursuit of glory. All right. Ego, concerned with appearances. Quote, 90% of being cool is looking cool. And you look so much cooler wearing a ball cap. All right. So he's talking about, he's worried about how you look, right? It's appearances, right? And what is that? Concerned about the way people see you, right? The context of the above statement. I wore my helmet from time to time. Admittedly, it was not often. The general exception to this was at night, I'd wear the helmet so as to have a place to attach my night vision to. Otherwise, I'd wear a ball cap, a platoon cap with a Cadillac symbol adopted as our unit logo. Why a ball cap? 99% of being cool is looking cool. And you look so much cooler with a ball cap. So what's the idea with looking cool? It's about appearances. It's about how you look in other people's eyes. And who are you trying to impress, right? You're trying to impress them? Well, you're really trying to build yourself up, right? If you build yourself up in their eyes, it's about, making yourself feel good with ego, with vanity. He wants to look cool. He wants to be the badass. Contrary to what he says, he's acutely concerned with what others think of him, right? This is all about ego. This is all about appearances. This is all about self. All right. It wasn't that I thought I was tougher or better than the Marines were. It was that I knew that was the way people looked at us. Oh, he's concerning about what people look at them again. How many times have we said this over and over again? He's concerned about how people view him, right? What does that mean? That's vanity. That's appearances. That's concern about who? Concern about them? No, it's concern about self. And I didn't want to let those people down. I didn't want to fail in their eyes or mine. That's the line that's the line of thinking that's beaten into us. We're the best of the best. We're invincible. Okay. I expect many people to say, well, what's wrong with this? Right? For soldiers to be motivated by what other people think of them has nothing to do with duty, honor, courage, and sacrifice. Right? These are wrong motives. When you get into ego, pride, vanity, right, and when you have this, the heavy responsibility of life and death, right, that should not, ego and pride should not be a motivation. In fact, concern with what other people think of you, which is based entirely upon ego, is a corruption of pure motives. Bragging about all the fights. Well, I got into a lot of fights. I didn't start most of them, right? Well, he said he started some. That's okay. All right. Ego, bragging for bar fights. I should say that that van was I should say that van wars are separate from bar fights. Well, I forget what he said about van wars. Another SEAL staple. SEALs are pretty notorious for getting into bar scrapes, and it was no exception. I've been arrested more than once. Well, he goes on and on about his bar fights. I'm not going to go into details, right? Jealousy or the need for a dumbass to test his own manhood, earned bragging rights for fighting a SEAL, right? We go in extremely confident. Maybe we're loud. Girls gravitate toward a group of SEALs. People take notice. So he's going in. He's concerned about what people think again. People take notice. Girls gravitate towards SEALs, right? This is all about ego and pride. Makes your boyfriends jealous. Our guys want to prove something for some other reason. Either way, things escalate and fights happen, right? Oh, girls gravitate towards SEALs, right? Right? You're right. We walk in, right? We're loud and obnoxious, right? And people take notice of us, right? Ego, bragging rights. So this is more bar stuff. Fighting is a fact of life when you're a SEAL. I've been in a few good ones, right? So he's saying he fought UCF fighters, naturally, I wasn't going to let him fight alone. I jumped in together. We beat the shit out of them, the three or four UCF fighters. So he said him and this other guy beat the shit out of 3 or 4 UCF fighters. All right, okay. Fights and more fights. That's the title of his section there. Fights and more fights. I have other run-ins with fighters. I like to think I've held my own. Inside a bar, a few off-duty police officers and firemen were having a party. A few women turned their attention to our guys. Oh, now, SEALs are women magnets again, right? When that happened, the locals got jealous and started the fight. Okay, yeah, because all the women just go crazy over SEALs, right? That's why fights start. Okay, ego, bragging, bar fights. So yeah, women, SEALs are women magnets, right? Girls gravitate toward a group of SEAls, right? A few of the women turned their attention to our guys. All right. You might think it'd be tough to get into a drunken brawl in Kuwait, so he talks about another fight, right? All right, so he's bragging about his fights, concerned with his rep, his appearances. Kyle writes at the beginning of his book, I don't worry about what people think of me. Man, throughout his book, it comes through that he's clearly and utterly concerned with what people think, right? In their eyes, he says, worried about what they think, don't want to let them down in their eyes, right? So here's Mark Lee's last letter. Mark Lee was a member of 3rd Platoon and Cal's friend. 3rd Platoon is Cal's platoon. This is what he said about glory in his letter. Okay, so we said that Cal up here is concerned with glory. He's jealous of glory, right? For here, glory. All right, so here's Mark Lee's letter. Glory is something that some men chase and others find themselves stumbling upon, not expecting to find them. Either way, it's a noble gesture that one finds bestowed upon them, noble by the people who give it, I guess, right? That's Mark Lee's opinion. My question is, when does glory fade away and become a wrongful crusade? Ooh, right? Who's the crusader? Who's got the crusade cross? Or an unjustified means by which consumes one completely, right? So glory becomes your all-consuming drive, right? So he's saying, someone here, maybe more than someone, are driven by getting glory, right? Completely consumed by it. Someone's completely consumed by getting glory, consumes one completely. Later he says, I've seen amazing things happen here. However, I've seen the sad part of war too. I've seen the morals of a man, right, who cares nothing of human life. Does that fit what Kyle's been saying about them? I give a flying fuck about them, he says, right? He says, I don't like killing, I don't kill people who have crimes, but I like to, right? I've seen the morals of a man who cares nothing about human life. I've seen hate towards a nation of people. Did Kyle show his hate repeatedly? Yes. Towards a nation of people who has never committed a wrong except being born in a third world, ill-educated and ignorant to Western civilization. It's not everybody who feels this way, only a select few, but it brings questions to mind. All right? Here's a little bit of honesty by Mark Lee, right? Lee says that some people chase after glory and that the pursuit of glory becomes a wrongful crusade. It's a wrongful crusade. Right? That consumes one completely. All-consuming, quest. Lee says, I've seen the morals of a man, right? Which means lack of morals of a man who cares nothing about human life. I've seen hate towards a nation's people who has never committed a wrong except being born in a third world, ill-educated, ignorant to Western civilization. And there's not everybody who feels this way, but only a select few. But it brings questions to mind, right? So now, it's only speculation, but I have to wonder who Mark Lee is talking about here. Does Cal chase after glory? Absolutely. Did Cal think that war in terms of crusade? Absolutely, right? In fact, he had a crusader cross tattooed in his arm to stand for blood, which stands for killing. That's what he said, right? The red stands for blood, which stands for killing. Did Cal have a cavalier attitude towards killing, right? Absolutely, he loved it. He said it was fun. He made a game of killing. Was Cal bigoted and hateful toward the Rockies? Absolutely. All these things fit Cal. Cal said he could give a flying fuck about the Rocky people, right? He said he had fun killing. What else here? All right, the things that happened in this book are true. That's the first line. Oh, he's got to make sure that we know he's not lying. All right, well, why do you start a book with that? Concern with validity. For a while, it didn't seem to matter what things I did. So this is after his commanding officer said, "Oh, someone's getting ahead of you." Then it's like all of a sudden, targets started showing up in front of my gun sight. I wasn't inventing incidents, right? All right. I never had. Well, he says this. I had witnesses for all my shots. I don't trust witnesses. Right? I want to see direct video, right? I never had any doubt about the people I shot. My guys would tease me, "Yeah, I know Chris. He's got a little gun cut on the end of his scope." Everyone in the ROE, everyone he sees is in the ROE. So everyone he sees is a valid target. So that's what he says. His guys, my guys would tease me. "Yeah, I know Chris. He's got a little gun cut on the end of his scope." Everyone he sees is in the ROE, rules of engagement. So everyone he sees is a valid target. That's what he says his boys would say about him. But the truth was, my targets were always obvious, and of course, I had plenty of witnesses every time I shot. Okay, yeah, and is it easy to fudge things slightly in your heads, right? All right. Do people fudge things all the time, slowly bias and sway things and color and shade and okay. And then he says this, okay? Now he's concerned with validity. He's concerned that he's not going to go into heaven here, right? He's concerned about going to hell, right? Read what comes across. He's concerned he's going to hell, but he says, my only hope is that I believe in Jesus Christ, right? And then he says, "Oh, but it wasn't. Why does he have to specify? It wasn't due to any of the kills I made. They're all good, right?" I think he's worried. It comes across. You just listen to this. "I'm a strong Christian, not a perfect one, not close, but I strongly believe in God, Jesus, and the Bible. When I die, God is going to hold me accountable for everything I've done on earth." Now, why does he even bring this up in his book, right? He may hold me back until the last run. Everybody else until last and run everyone else through the line because it will take so long to go over all my sins. Honestly, I don't know what will really happen on Judgment Day. Oh, what does that mean? He's worried. But what I lean toward is that all our sins and God knows them all, and shame comes over you at the reality that he knows. I believe the fact that I've accepted Jesus as my Savior will be my salvation. So the one fact that he believes. Right. But you can tell he's worried, right. He says, I don't know what's going to happen. So he's clearly worried. He says his only hope of salvation is that he believes. He says, there's so much I've done, right? But then he says this, "But in the back room or whatever it is, God confronts me with my sins. I do not believe." Ooh, I do not believe, right? Why is he not certain? Any of the kills I had during the war will be among them. Okay, so he's concerned, all right? And he's fudging and biasing to where, it's not none of them. Everyone I shot was evil. I had good cause. Well, everyone over there was evil. The way he judged those people, they're all evil. He can give a flying fuck about them. He said they're all evil, right? They all deserve to die. All right, Now, can I be his judge? No. But from everything he says, do I doubt him? Do I question him? Yes, absolutely, right? And that's all I'm saying about this, right? Now, are people going to remember all these facts? Are they going to integrate and correlate them? Hell no. They forget the first one from the start, right? What's gonna last and what's gonna stand out is social reality. What everyone says, right? Well, you weren't a sniper. You weren't in combat, man. I'm not. It doesn't matter if you're in combat or not. That's bullshit. What matters is the evidence, right? What does he say in his book? All right. What is he proven to have lied about? What is the motive for his lies? Right? What is the motive that comes through in his book? To be the big shot, to be the top sniper, to be the hero, right? To get bragging rights. to get reputation. The benefit, he says there's benefits to reputation. So does reputation not matter? Throughout the book, reputation matters to him. Through many ways he said it. Right? In many ways he said he's concerned about what people think of him. Although he said, I'm not concerned about what people think of me. He goes, but then he goes on and on directly against that. To me, what's bleeding through here is concern that he's going to hell. It's fear. He's concerned. Why does he even bring this up in his book? He's worried his only hope for salvation is his belief in Jesus as his Savior. Right? Also, the fact that he emphasized that he did not believe any of his kills in Iraq were sins that are going to send him to hell. Right? All my kills are good. I believe. Right? Makes me suspect he's really concerned. Right? Why does he say, I do not believe any of the kills I had during the war would be among them? Right? Why is he any more affirmative? Added up. Saying he doesn't believe that any of his kills were unrighteous. Saying he may be held to the last day in judgment. Saying he doesn't know what's going to happen to him on judgment day, like he may go to hell. Saying God will take him to the back room on judgment day. Right? Saying that in light of all the above, his only hope of salvation was his acceptance of Jesus Christ. To me, he sounds unsure and concerned, and that this is pure speculation on my part. Right? But what bleeds across? And I'm a good interpreter of language, right? I can see what underlies things. That sounds like I'm bragging, but no, I am exceptional at language. But can I prove it? Nah. He has a proven record of being a pathological liar, right? He was driven by ego and glory. He was extremely concerned with numbers to be the top sniper. He had a total disregard for the lives of not only those he killed, but all Iraqis. He said he could give a flying fuck about them. Right? He loved killing. He had fun killing. He made it a sport and sought variety in ways of killing to make it a game. Right? All right? It was getting boring just killing, so let's make it a game. He repeatedly stated that he needed to build his reputation, and he loved being called the legend. He believed killing was a psyops method. Oh, this is a valid psyops method. Let's kill people. Yeah, that's gonna put the fear, and that's gonna pacify them. Oh, will it pacify them? Or will it blow up the insurgency? Will it increase the fight? The thing about it is, in the end, I can't judge Chris Kyle because I don't know what really happened. But you know what? I just say God is his judge, and whatever he deserves, I hope he gets. Okay. Here's the part of the book where he says he punched out Scruffface. I don't buy this for a second. This is a ridiculous, bogus statement, right? There's no way Ventura, a former Navy SEAL, would have said what he said here. Okay, so in a SEAL bar in Coronado, California, I was sitting there with Ryan and told him that Scruff was holding court with some of his buddies. I'd really like to meet him, Ryan said. Sure, I got up and went over to Scruff and introduced myself. Mr. Scruffface, I have a young SEAL over here who just came back from Iraq. He'd been injured, but he'd really like to meet you. Well, Scruffface kind of blew off. Scruffface acted like he couldn't be bothered. All right. We went back over to our side of the bar and had a few more drinks. In the meantime, Scruff started running his mouth about the war and everything, and anything he could connect it to. President Bush was an asshole. We were only over there because Bush wanted to show up his father. We were doing the wrong thing, killing men and women and children, murdering. Right? And on. Scruff said he hated America, and that's why he moved to Baja California. 9/11 was a conspiracy. God. Right? He hated America, that's why he moved to Baja California. All right. And on some more. The guys were getting upset. Finally, I went over and tried to get him to cool it. Okay, yeah. The guy who says that if you cut him off in the road, he'll cut you off the road. He'll drive you off the road and then try to whip your ass. Okay? He's being all cool. We're all here mourning, I told him. Can you just cool it, keep it down? You deserve to lose a few, he told me. Then he bowed up as if to belt me once. I was uncharacteristically level-headed at the moment. Look, I told him, why don't you just step away from each other? Why don't we just step away from each other and go our own ways? Scruff bowed up again. This time he swung. Being level-headed and calm can last only so long, and I laid him out. Tables flew, stuff happened, Scruffface ended up on the floor. I left quickly. I have no way of knowing for sure, but rumor has it he showed up at the Buds training. Not bids. Bud's graduation with a black eye. Okay, all right. So this was proven in court to be all made up. With all the evidence brought forth, this is proven to be a lie. So much so that Jesse Ventura won a $1.845 million defamation suit against the Cal State. I don't believe this for a second. I don't believe the first part. I don't believe that, a blinded guy, right, who Ryan was blinded, right, in the line of duty, Jesse Ventura would just blow him off, right? Okay, all right, maybe he did, but I doubt it, right? Now, Jesse Ventura won a $1.845 defamation suit. I really doubt this, right? Kyle's wife appealed, but it was summarily thrown out. Kyle's first claim of this story is found in his book, American Sniper, where he didn't call Jesse Ventura by name. He used a pseudonym, Scruffface. Now, why would he use a pseudonym? If Jesse Ventura really did this, right, he'd have no fear of using his name, all right? What ramifications would there be, right? But as it was, he used Scruffface, not claiming who it was, right? Why would he do this? If the incident really occurred, why wouldn't he be forthright and say Jesse Ventura? Why is he being sneaky about this, like he's protecting himself from a potential defamation suit, which he got and lost? There is no way I believe that Jesse Ventura, traveling all the way, well, he's in California now, I guess, so this is wrong. He goes to honor a fallen fellow Navy SEAL, one who threw his body on a grenade to save his buddies, winning the Medal of Honor, and then say that he deserved to die along with a few others, right? What does he say? What did he say? We went to our side of the bar and scuffed around. Okay, wait. Okay. All right, President Bush asshole. Okay. All right, on. Got upset in the morning, keep down. Oh, you deserve to lose a few, he told me. You deserve to lose a few. This is at his, a guy who won the Medal of Honor's funeral. Come on, right? What person in the right mind would say that? Oh, he deserved to die. Basically, he's saying that guy deserved to die. You deserve to lose a few. Medal of Honor winner, jumping on a grenade to save his buddies. That is a horrendous assault. That is a vicious attack there. $1.84 million, worth every penny of that. Ventura said he doesn't even recall. Okay, wait a minute. In an interview with Bill O'Reilly, okay, there's no way I believe that Jesse Ventura traveled all the way to California to honor a fallen Navy SEAL, one who threw his body on a grenade to save his buddies, winning the Medal of Honor, and then say that he deserved to die. There's no way Jesse Ventura, any normal human being would do that, especially at his funeral. To accuse someone of saying that is the real vicious crime. This never happened. This is not the crime. This is the crime of making this up. In an interview with Bill O'Reilly, Kyle said the cops were at the bar, and so he fled the scene. What are cops doing hanging out at a bar, right? Now, assault is a serious crime. Why wasn't a police report filed? Why didn't the cops pursue Kyle and arrest him, right? You commit a crime like that, right? You have two crimes. You have fleeing the scene, you have assault, right? Now, why wasn't he charged with fleeing the scene of a crime, which I believe is a felony, not a misdemeanor? But either way, it's a crime. I wonder, did those policemen testify in the lawsuit trial? I don't know, but I'm guessing that there were phantom cops who never existed. Why would cops be hanging out at the bar when on duty to begin with? Ventura said he doesn't recall ever meeting Kyle. With a bar crowded with SEALs and plenty of other people, why wasn't there a long line of people testifying, right? Two of his buddies came to the defense and lied, but their stories conflicted, right? Only two of his buddies, backed up his story, right? Now, you know that Jesse Ventura won this suit, right? So there was probably a whole slew of people, right, who said they saw nothing, right? And there should have been a long line of witnesses. Everyone would have heard this. Everyone has seen this. I guess they didn't think ahead and didn't get the story straight. Kyle said he gave Venturi a black eye. Jesse Ventura's on anticoagulants, right, which prevent clotting, right? So if he got punched in the eye, he'd have, severe internal bleeding, right? It'd be a big hematoma, a big black eye spread, right? And if he banged his head, he could get a severe hematoma or even a cranial or cerebral hematoma, right? In fact, Jesse Ventura is a big man, a large man. To knock him down would take a lot of force, right? Yet the picture of Jesse Ventura the very next day showed no marks whatsoever. On being level-headed, this is what Kyle admits to about his temper. On the darker side, I was extremely hot-headed. I have always had a temper, even before becoming a SEAL, but it was more explosive now. I sometimes cut people off. If someone cut me off, not a very rare occurrence in California, I can get crazy. I might run him off the road and then stop and whip his ass. All right, this is his bogus crap about weapons of mass destruction. So from my review of his lies, it's clear he's an extraordinary liar. For what purpose? For self-promotion, building himself up. So he's got a tendency not just to lie, he's got a tendency to self-promote, build himself up. He's a braggart. He's driven by ego. He's driven by reputation. He's highly concerned with what people think of him, right? He says that multiple times. He's a simpleton. He's ignorant and bigoted. Says he hates Muslims for being Muslim. He loves killing. Killing for him is fun. He makes a game of killing, right? And it's a way of building his reputation, his numbers. He has a total disregard for justice and injustice. Remember that when those guys were being falsely accused? He said, I don't care, right? He's a hero monger and a glory seeker. Now, how a guy like this is an American hero, I don't know, right? It's amazing. For a guy like this to be your hero, you'd have to be as simple and ignorant as he is, right? Or just as much of a liar, right? You want to have a hero, to make yourself feel good, to build yourself up. So you can pound your chest and you can yell USA, USA, right? And wave the flag and feel good about yourself. Patriotism, right? People say patriotism, nationalism is being committed to something larger yourself. No, patriotism, nationalism is fully committed to the self because it's all rooted in self. It's about feeding the self, making the self feel good. Your commitment to nation is all about commitment to self. That's pathetic, but that's human nature, right? This is not a guy to worship as a hero. This is a guy who I despise, right? From all he says. All right, so I made a diagram here. So this is kind of a summary diagram, right? So let's take a look at Chris Kyle's motives, right? And how those motives can then, influence, bias, distort the designation of a valid target. Who's a valid target? Okay. Let's take a motive. To kill the enemy. Is that a motive? Yeah, that's a motive. To protect Americans. Is that a motive? Yeah, it's a motive. Patriotism. Could that be a motive? Yeah, it's a motive, right? Is that a good motive, actually? People naturally think, patriotism is good. It's godly. It is not godly, right? Patriotism is all wrapped up in self. You say it's wrapped up in your country, but it's your country, right? Nationalism is all ego-driven, right? It's all self-driven. It's all about pride. Where does pride come from? Self, ego. Right? All right, so, these are his decent ones. Well, this is not that good, actually, although people think, patriotism is good. they're raised that way, right? Okay, so these are okay, right? These are good, right? Oh, this is not so good, I'd say. But what about to have fun? Did he say that? Was that one of his motives, to have fun? Yeah. Making an amusing game, right? Was that part of it? Yeah. Was it conducting a form of psyops by putting the fear in Iraqi people? Was that part of his motives? Yeah. To be the top sniper and to have the most kills, to get his numbers up, to build his rep, to build his reputation? Yeah. Right? For the advantages of reputation. Did he say that? Did he say advantages of reputation? Yeah. To build himself up in the eyes of others? Yeah. To be a legend, megalomaniac desire to be a hero, to be a badass, right? His unadulterated hate for Iraqis. Did he say he hated these Iraqis? Combined with his out-of-control anger problem, right? For his warped crusade, for his hateful and distorted view of Muslims, right, which actually mirrored his own distorted version of Christianity. All right. Okay. Now, could his blind hate, for example, have biased his target designation? Okay. Right. Any of those could have influenced it. Now, let's take a look at what other people said of him. So let's take a look at this. Could the fact that Kyle is a proven extreme pathological liar have affected his distorted bias, or biased or distorted his designation of valid target? Is that possible? Right? And not just his proven extreme record of lies, but the fact that each of those lies were to build up, were self-promoting. Do you remember those lies? If I were to ask you, can you name them off? All right. What about the fact that people so easily all right, this is a simple fact. That people easily bias, twist, distort, rationalize, finagle, shade a little bit to suit their biased motives and desires. The people wiggle their desires, shade a little bit. All right. This is what people do. Right. Now, if you're a big liar, well, it makes it easier, right? My guys would tease me, yeah, I know Chris, he's got a little gun cut on the end of his scope. Everyone he sees is in the rules of engagement. Right, so that's what he says his boys would say about him, right? That everyone to him is a valid target. I don't know, that's what he's saying his own friends would say of him. What about Mark Lee's letter about a guy who matches Kyle's description completely, who seeks glory as an unjustified means that consumes him completely, right? An unjustified means that consumes one completely, right? Fierce hate for the Rockies, right? On a wrongful crusade, right? A person with the morals of a man who cares nothing about human life. Having hate towards a nation of people. Did Chris Kyle have hate towards the whole nation? Yeah, he did. Was he callous towards them? Yeah, he was, right? Did he seek glory? Yeah, he did, right? Chris Kyle's worried he's not going to go to heaven for the things he's done, right? And it bleeds through that he's worried about his kills. Even though he says it, man, it comes through that he's worried about them, right? Oh, I believe. Yeah, right? Anyway, so now, does all this prove that, he biased and distorted his kills? No, it doesn't. The only way you can prove it, like I said, is to have actual video footage of the whole entire situation, right? But at the same time, given all his lies, given all the stuff he said in his book, right? Here's his lies. Go through his lies. Here's all the crap he says in his book. Do I trust him? Not for a second. I don't trust this guy. I don't like this guy. This is a guy that, I wouldn't respect him as a hero. I do the opposite. I hate guys like this. Guys who one, have simple-minded hate, one who distort things, one who are driven by ego and reputation. We went through the things in his book, what he said. All right? All right, so now that's the basis of my perception of him. Okay? Can I prove it? No, right? It's not like Clint Eastwood's movie where you can compare it directly to Kyle's book. All right? And you compare it to So, yeah. All right, so that's the basis of my dislike for the person. All right? Now, everyone's like, oh, you're unpatriotic because you hate an American war hero, and I got all these people who are mad at me, right? Do they know any of this stuff? Do they have any of this in their minds? Do they remember any of this? No, none of it.